Every life has a story, and every story is worth sharing. Your story, my story, and our story speak of victory and defeat, joy and sorrow, resilience and vulnerability. They are not just our story, they are Christ's story in us. They are Kingdom Stories from Down Under.
Every time you meet somebody, you're looking for things in common, for bridges. Sometimes when you meet certain people, you realize they've got more things in common than usual. In fact, quite a few things. Well, that's exactly what happened when I met David Stanford. I've just realized that we've had similar journeys, that we've done mission work, that we've done Bible colleges, that we've known so many people who we've crossed paths with, but we haven't actually met each other. Yeah? Well, when I did meet him, I've realized that we've got a lot in common. And today at Kingdom Stories from Down Under, it is a privilege to introduce to you David Stanford. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
When I read your bio, I thought, man, there's so many things, you know, there's probably about 10 or 12 things, about a dozen things that we've got in common. We've done so many things that are very similar, and we've coexisted almost in the same city for so long, yet we haven't sat down to have a cuppa before, have we?
Amen. Yeah. Good time to start.
Good time to start. It's what happens from now on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Born in Harvey, down south.
Yep.
Great beef and orchard country.
Yes. Dad was a building contractor, but I always wanted him to be a farmer. I love farms.
Yeah.
And I was always on the farms with my friends.
Were you on acreage or were you in town?
No, we're just on the edge of town. My uncle had an orchard around the corner, so we spent a lot of time in the orchard.
Apples, peaches?
Oranges.
Oranges, okay.
Always free oranges. And my cousin and I, we did had a lot of fun there. So born there, had a reasonably fun upbringing. My parents were old when I was born. I was the last one by a long shot. I got a lot of three other older siblings.
Yes.
And Mum and Dad were 42, 43 when I was born, so they always seemed to be old. So in some ways I grew up like an only child, in other ways I grew up, as my wife says, a spoiled child.
Was there a big gap between the last one and you?
Yeah, 9 years between me and my next one.
Okay, that's why.
So some of my eldest nephew is only 12 years younger than me, so yeah.
Okay. Well, that's similar as well, because my mom was 40 when she had me.
Oh, okay.
So there you go.
It's a bit scary.
Yeah. Well, we just had a baby, and I won't tell you my age, but much older than what my mom was.
Yeah.
So, you know, it doesn't change things too much.
No.
But you were spoiled, and that's always good. You know.
Blessed, yeah.
Blessed
in many ways. I mean, Mum and Dad were a part of the Harvey Church of Christ.
Yes.
Had been all of my dad's life, and so I grew up from day one in that church.
Strong community?
Strong. Not a massive community. It wasn't a church that was huge, but like a lot of things, as you look back, you realise there were so many people who seemed old back then.
Yeah.
Who prayed for you so much. You know, I was a bit of a mischievous sort of fella, but just realising the grace of God in having people who, I guess, bothered with me, bothered to pray for me, bothered to encourage me, and I'm just forever thankful for them.
Yeah. Nice. And school?
I went to Harvey Primary School for 7 years, then Harvey High for 3 years.
So there's a high school there?
Now it's to year 12, but back then it was only to year 10.
Okay.
So I was a good student. I was good at sport and quite a good academic student as well.
And your brothers, is it brothers and sisters? Or
2 sisters and a brother.
Did they move to town or did they stay in Harvey?
One's still in Harvey. She's been in Harvey her whole life. One moved from Harvey and then worked around Australia, different places, and is now living back in Australind. Okay. And my brother, he went into building like my dad, with my dad, and then he's done different things. He's now living in Perth. So
you still had siblings throughout your sort of growing up?
Yeah, but not always around me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now and again they'd be there. From when I was 8, my sister was over in Melbourne and then lived in Perth.
Would she send you gifts or?
Yeah,
modern high-tech gifts, or what
Yeah,
was it?
things like, well, this is back in 1960. My brother brought a footy back from Melbourne, and my sister sent me, for my 8th birthday, I think it was, the Secret 7 books.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was...
But you remember it. So
I do remember
it
some
was
of those
it was
things.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Very, because I had my older sister was 13 years older than me. We're 7.
Yeah.
So, every time they would come home from the city, we live in a smaller town, they would get me gifts and bring me bits and pieces, and we were always excited every time they came across.
Yeah. Now, from when I was 5 also, we had a beach called Binningup Beach and Mile Beach just out from Harvey, and from when I was 5 to 45, we had a house at Binningup. And so a lot of our time was spent at the beach.
How far was that? An hour and 10 minutes?
Oh, no. 15 minutes.
Is Harvey that close to the ocean?
Yeah, Harvey's about 10 or 15 k's from the ocean.
Only? Okay.
Yeah, so it's quite close.
Oh, just straight across the Forest Highway?
Yeah, just straight across there.
Okay.
So I remember all of our Sunday school picnics were out at Binningup. My dad had a truck and my uncle had a truck, and all the kids would be on the back of the truck heading out to the beach, things you wouldn't do today.
No sunscreen, nothing.
Oh, the sunscreen, we didn't even have any. We just put a plank on the back of the truck on bricks.
Yeah.
The kids would sit on that and we'd head out to the beach.
At 40 k's an hour.
Oh, no. I don't know. I didn't check it. I was only young, but it was just
a
what
lot
you
of
did
dust,
then.
and it was fun.
It was fun. Dad
Freedom.
used to pick up. Dad would pick up kids for the Sunday school in the back of his ute. Go around the different farms, pick up kids.
Was he a Sunday school teacher, was he?
He was an elder in the church. He was a Sunday school teacher. He ran the Sunday school for certain periods. Not sometimes, yeah.
So the community was very strong.
Yeah, it's a good, strong community, Harvey was.
Yeah. It's interesting. A lot of high-ranked politicians and also business people of Australia, they grew up in country towns, and they've become what they are today, and they are so grateful. I think growing up with a free mind, I think you have a lot of time to think, you have a lot of time to imagine, you're close to the land, you're close to, real life stories, you're close to older people. I think in the city, people are sheltered. Children are sheltered from the elements, they shelter from real life, real work, they shelter from, people as well. You're always afraid somebody may snatch your child, whereas in the country, that phobia doesn't even exist.
And I guess you don't appreciate it when you're only in school. You don't appreciate everything good about the country at 15.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't always good stuff,
Yeah.
There was some challenges, but it's certainly a good lifestyle.
Yeah.
I don't think I would ever live back in the country, but it's certainly a place I love to go. I need to be there at times.
But as a child, it is phenomenal.
Fantastic.
It's phenomenal. And the school, I mean, you probably didn't have 30 children in the class. There were only maybe 15 or 18.
No. It was big classes. We had probably 25.
Yeah. But I just feel that the teachers have more time. The pressure is not like the same in the city.
And not the same as it is in 2021.
Definitely.
Totally different. No. Yeah. And you can't really compare, I mean, we're talking back in the 60s as opposed to 55, 60 years later.
They could still smack you back then in school.
I never got the cane. I don't know why. I guess I couldn't.
You ran too fast.
I didn't get caught. I was a fast runner here.
And then you moved to Northern, or?
No, I moved to Perth.
To finish year 11 or to study year 11?
Yeah, year 11 and 12. I moved to Perth. I went to boarding school because we didn't have a senior high school in Harvey. And I'd become a Christian when I was about 14, 15 in Harvey. And
even baptised?
Yeah, I got baptised when I was 14, just before I turned 15. But my decision was based more on a life insurance policy, It's like, if what this guy is saying is true, and I'm pretty sure it is, then I'm on the wrong side of the ledger. I'm going to hell. Yeah. And hell wasn't something that I was really liking to go to. So
no, it's
I
not
thought, well,
attractive.
if I become a Christian, then at least I'm on the right side. And if Christianity is not true, then it won't change my life that much. Little did I know. So I became a Christian based on that, and God in His grace took me and actually changed one big aspect of my life. He changed my language. I used to swear a lot before that. And that was one thing.
Even as a kid?
Yeah. More so in the years 12 to 14, 15, you know.
Okay.
I didn't do it deliberately.
What school did you come to at the boarding school?
Scotch College.
Oh, so your parents had to pay big money for that? Well, back then wasn't that much.
Compared to what it is now, no, it wasn't that much. But I was the only one in our family to have gone on to school anyway.
Okay.
Most of my other three siblings, they left at the end of year 10.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it was back then, it was $500 a term for boarding.
Which
So
would be, let's say, $5,000 now.
maybe 10.
Or 10,000.
But it costs, probably the equivalent would cost 20,000 now.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's
More.
Yeah. No, probably not.
Yeah.
But it was, Dad was, as I said, a builder, and so he had access to money, and so he
invested in you.
that. Yeah.
So when you finished year 12, so being in the city, what was it like being in the city? Now you had a bit of independence, a bit of freedom, you could try things.
Well, not really. There was some freedoms, but being in a boarding school, there was some constraints.
Yeah, you couldn't get out.
You could, more than, say, in a girls' boarding school.
Yeah.
But there was some freedoms. But I came to Perth pretty insecure in who I was as a person.
Yeah.
And the boarding school doesn't help that.
No.
You know, so the 2 years in boarding school weren't my favourite 2 years of my life.
Were you bullied?
A little bit of verbal stuff.
Yeah.
But the fact that I was academic and I was good at sport, that sort of got me through in a lot of areas. No, I was never physically bullied or anything. But it was just a place that you're wary.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't a place where there was a lot of camaraderie.
Were you good at footy? Or?
Footy I was okay at, but more the sports I was better at was basketball, tennis, hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Cricket,
Scotch is known for many sports.
Yeah.
A lot of activity.
Yeah, and it's a fairly academic school as well.
Yeah.
So I was nowhere near the top there.
Alcohol?
Never.
No.
I tampered with it a bit when I was probably 18, but minimal. Yeah.
Smoking, never picked it up?
Once again, between 15 and 18, 19, mucked around with it.
But no.
Never serious, no.
Mm-hmm. So you transitioned through that stage quite well compared to many other young kids who went astray.
In terms of that area, yeah, I was okay. Yeah.
So what did you went to teachers college afterwards?
Now I went to UWA.
Yep.
And once again, I was wondering what to do, because no one in our family had even gone on to high school, let alone to university. And so I ended up thinking I would become a chemist, a pharmacist, or a vet.
Okay.
Both of those, or veterinary, you had to go over east to do after first year.
Yeah.
But so I did a fairly difficult course in first year. It involved physics, mathematics, chemistry, and zoology.
Yeah.
And it was pretty tough. You know, we had 33 contact hours a week, and it was a heavy course. Yeah. And I found halfway through that first year that I was like struggling. And I thought, gee, the only thing I find pretty easy here, or pretty straightforward, was mathematics.
Yes.
And I thought, what could I do with mathematics? I thought maybe I could become a teacher. Because mathematics teachers are very well sought after.
Yeah.
But the reality was I couldn't stand up and say boo to a goose. I was very shy, insecure. But anyway, I ended up switching over, and in middle of first year I took the education link.
Yes.
But I still had to finish those units and pass them, which I did just. And so then at the end of that first year, they put you onto a school prac for 3 weeks. You know, done no education stuff at all.
Yeah.
And we go to one of these little primary schools of grade 6s up in, I always remember it, Maida Vale Primary School. I was in this class just petrified. You know, all these little kids around, and the teacher says...
And you were only 19 or something?
17.
17?
18 at this stage. And the teacher said, I've just got to go to the office. If anyone asks what to do next, just say do this board, this one next.
Yeah.
And I thought, don't ask me any questions. And this kid, the little girl, says, "Sir, do we do that board next?" And I go, "Yes." I managed to get out something, but within 2 days I was flying.
Yeah.
Just loving it. I did frog dissections for them, and
biology, a bit of.
because I'd done that in zoology at uni, so we did all this stuff, and it's almost like God took teaching.
Yes.
And used as a training ground for ministry.
Wonderful.
Developed my ability to speak, to present, and communicate.
Yeah. Beautiful. And did you connect to a church when you came to town?
When I came to Perth?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. It was interesting. The only thing that really connected me with church when I came to Perth, I'd played one game of basketball with the South Perth Church of Christ team.
Yes.
When I was in Year 12 at uni, at Scotch.
Yes.
And so when I went to uni, I suddenly thought, for the first time in my life, I can do what I like.
Uh-huh.
I've got no restrictions.
Yeah.
I've got a car. I've got no one looking over me.
Where were you living? In an apartment?
No, I was living at a place called Kingswood College, which is one of the 6 colleges across from UWA.
Winthrop Halls, across the road.
Just across the road there. So I thought, I can do what I like. But inwardly, I thought I should really go to church.
Yeah.
So I'd become a Christian 3
during
years
Scotch,
before.
there wasn't much church.
We had a chapel.
Yeah.
And a chapel. And then I'd go home for holidays. We'd go to church in Harvey and things like that. So I drifted along to South Perth Church of Christ and linked in with the basketball program there. And
so they had a basketball team?
Yeah, we had a number of teams at church, yeah.
Wow.
And so but I didn't really connect with people because I was still insecure in terms of, I didn't know if anyone really wanted me around or not.
Yeah.
And so I kept my distance a bit. I just kept an edge. But it gave me a little link to this is my church.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't fully invested in it. So they used to have a morning service and a night service.
You had a place to belong.
I tried, at least to some degree. So I'd go at night.
Yeah.
Which is a bit more lively, a few young people there, and it was quite a big church. And back in the 70s, it was sort of a church that if people wanted to take a non-Christian friend along to at night, they'd take them there.
Yeah.
Quite a strong pulpit ministry.
Yeah. Altar calls even.
Yeah, strong.
Yeah,
strong altar calls. And so that, I often laugh about it, but basketball was the one thing that took me to that church.
Yeah.
The fact that I'd played one game when I was in Year 12, and it's been something that's changed my life over the years. Yeah. So that's how I connected with South Perth Church of Christ.
Beautiful. And so you began attending the evening services?
Yeah. So, and from there, I was still probably the back end of my second year of uni. I made what we called a rededication to Christ.
Yeah.
I really thought, I've got to go for broke in this.
Yeah.
I walked into my room at uni.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to throw Christianity out the window. It was the August of 1974. I remember it very well. I'm going to throw Christianity out the window because it's not working for me. And God spoke to me. He said, but you can't because it's true. And I thought, stuff, I know it's true, but it ain't working.
Yeah.
And God basically said to me, you got a foot in both camps. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so he showed me a picture.
Mm-hmm.
And the picture was, I'm at this level.
Yeah.
And if you throw Christianity out the window, if I throw Christianity out the window and do what my mates are doing, then I'm going to go down here. But because Christianity is true, and I knew it was true, at some point in my life, to go anywhere, I've got to come back through this same point to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And even in my very irrational state, I was quite depressed at the time. I'd had a fairly major breakup with a girl who I thought I was going to marry, and I was pretty depressed.
So it was maths to you. It was this was the negative. This was the x-axis. And this was
I wasn't thinking mathematics at this point. So I remember thinking, that's dumb.
yeah,
Because what might happen down here could be a lot of baggage that brings no good at all to my
Yeah.
life.
yeah,
So I thought, I think I need to go this way.
okay,
And I thought to myself, what does going that way look like? What does it mean? And one thing I knew it meant was connecting with Christian young adult people,
yeah,
which I hadn't really done. And so at South Perth Church of Christ, they had quite a good number of young adults. And they used to meet on a Tuesday night.
yeah,
And so I thought, I'm going to start going. And so I started to go along to that Tuesday night group
yeah,
and started to be a little bit embraced by them.
yes,
The next year, one of the young couples from church, actually it's John Bond's brother, he said to me, why don't you come and live with us? We've just bought a house in Como. And I thought, wow. And it's almost like that step really put me on a trajectory where God was actually moving me into good places.
yeah,
So I moved out of the college, moved into their home, and suddenly I went from being very lonely because I had no real home. Because when you're from the country but you live in a room,
yeah.
you don't have a home.
It's an imprisonment
Well,
almost.
it's not in prison, but you just don't belong anywhere.
Yeah, it's a temporary thing.
Temporary. And so suddenly I had a home and I had a family.
Yeah,
And I just blossomed.
yeah,
I got involved in
they were
ministry.
discipling you as well.
They were.
Yeah, it was discipleship.
And one night she said Diane was the
Lady of the house.
lady of the house. They didn't have any kids. They were only 7 years older than me and 8 years older than me, 6 years older than me, whatever. And she said to me, gee, the young people at South Perth really love having you around.
Yeah,
And I thought, really? And she said, oh yeah, they love having you around. And I remember thinking, either I believe that or not. And I thought, if I believe it, I've got to live differently.
that's right.
And so I chose to believe what she said was true.
Yeah,
And so I started then to move towards them a lot more intentionally.
yeah.
And I found it was true.
And you were second, third year now?
That was third year uni, so I was 20.
Okay.
And that was really like, there's a proverb that says, like apples of gold in settings of silver
Yeah.
are words spoken in right circumstances.
Wow.
And those words were an apple of gold in a setting
One
of
sentence.
silver. Changed my life. I tell them often how they changed my life, you know,
Beautiful.
because they're still in our church.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And then you finished college?
then I finished uni. Yeah, so in the meantime, I'd met my now wife.
At church there?
No, her brother I'd met the week before we went to boarding school.
Yeah.
We had a tennis tournament that we were playing on the Australia Day holiday.
Yeah.
And I'd met my now brother-in-law. We were playing against each other and we beat him. We won the title for that
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
I go to Scotch the next year and he's in the boarding house. So we didn't become best friends, but we were both Church of Christ. He was from a place called Muckenbuden.
I know Mackenbuden.
You've been to Muckenbuden?
I've interviewed people from Mackenbuden.
Fantastic. Anyway,
I need to go there because
need to
I've
go
got
there.
so many people. I know so many people from there.
yeah, Muckenbuden. They used to have T-shirts. Mucker's where it's at.
Okay.
So I met him, and then, long story short, I ended up going to the farm one weekend with my cousin.
Yeah.
And out of that, I started going out with one of his sisters.
Oh.
So that was about the same time I moved into Como with this family.
Yeah.
And she was in year 12, so a bit younger. I was 20, she was 17. And then she broke it off about the September, and I think it was because her dad put the hard word on her to do some study and pass her exams.
Of course.
And then we started going out again together.
After the exams.
No, it would have been May the next year.
Yeah.
It's funny because I thought, she's the only one that I've been dropped by a lot of girls, but she's the only one I don't think I gave a reason why I should be dropped.
Yeah.
So we then got married 3 years later. So that was the best thing to come out of Scotch College.
Nice.
Yeah. So finished fourth year uni, and by that time I'd got a lot of involved in a lot of ministry in the church, running youth groups and
Oh, your leadership was coming through.
yeah. I was the prayer coordinator for the young adults. So we had a singing group that we used to go around different churches. And
I'm always curious about this. They say that, there's two schools of thought. One is that leaders are born, and other, school of thought is that leaders are made. Do you think you've always had it in you?
No, definitely made.
Definitely made.
For me, definitely made it.
Who made you?
Well, there's all these little things I've shared, like the words of giving me confidence that these people actually enjoy having me around.
I know, but something inside of your DNA must have been deposited.
Maybe, I don't know.
It just needed activation.
It needed activation, yeah. Because that really activated me, because now one of my biggest gifts and abilities is connecting people.
I know, but what I'm saying is it probably awakened something in you, because it wasn't something that you learned you're a maths teacher, right?
Yeah.
So maths, it's very, structured. Yeah. If I do this, then I get that. It's almost like a pseudocode, like Turbo Pascal.
Formula.
Yeah, it's a formula. But in your leadership development, it wasn't a formula, wasn't? Was it?
I don't think so. I think it was just a lot of inputs that God brought into my life that just actually released me into some confidence. Is a big thing. For me, it was.
Obviously. So what happened was when your confidence came, your abilities just sprung out. So those must have been in you.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's fascinating. I'm very interested in human behavior.
Yeah.
So, because for a while I used to go with Maxwell, thinking, you can make anyone a leader. But I tell you what, I've seen some really awkward leaders out there.
Yeah.
I think you can make everybody a manager. But a top leader, they must have some skills in their blood, in their DNA that need to come out. Yeah, I think you can bring a leader to a certain level through skills, but beyond that, there has to be some natural ability.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a senior pastor of a church.
Yeah.
That's not anything I've ever desired.
Yeah.
I work better where I have a structure or where I'm working in a team.
Okay.
So a friend we worked with in India, he said, David, you are my number one, number two.
Yeah.
He said, no one in India wants to be number two.
Yeah.
But he said, that your role is a number two. You're an associate.
Second IC.
You're not the one that says, let's take this hill. Let's take
Maybe
this
we should do a course.
How to be a good OT.
Yeah. I don't think, I don't even know if there's a book on such thing.
I don't know.
It would be interesting.
It would be interesting, yeah.
Yeah. Second in charge.
People said to me at different points, how come you're not the senior pastor of our church? And I said, well, if I was the senior pastor, we would probably have a lot of fun.
But not
we'd do a lot of relational stuff, but we might not hold to a strategy.
Yeah.
Because I get distracted by people.
Yeah.
I can still lead where I need to in certain scenarios. But in terms of leading the ship,
overall, it's
not my strength.
Yeah. No, that's fine. But I think the beauty of this is that you know this.
Yeah.
And you're comfortable in this role.
Yeah.
Because a lot of guys who are second IC or, the second in charge, they dream to one day take the helm.
Yeah.
To be at the helm.
Yeah.
Whereas for you, no, this is it. This is your calling.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. That's good.
And so you married your wife. What's her name?
Yeah. So I taught for 2 years in Northern.
Oh, so that's where you were sent.
Yeah, I
was she in Perth or was she in
Mecca?
She
was in Perth studying at. She studied university. She became a phys ed teacher.
Okay.
So
at
she was
UWA as well.
UWA, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So we were there for 1 year together. I was in fourth year. She was in first year.
Okay.
So we used to meet in the library.
Nice, quietly, as you do.
Fourth bookshelf, So I taught in Northern for 2 years, which is only 100 k's out.
Yeah.
And we got involved in. I got involved in ministry up there. I preached my first sermon in the church up there.
So you lived in Norman. You moved to Norman.
Yeah, I lived to Northern. Yeah, moved
Northern,
to Northern.
Sorry. Yeah.
Stayed with a couple, an older couple, retired couple, and taught in the school. I was part of the leadership of the youth group on a Friday night.
So there was a Church of Christ there as well.
Yeah, strong Church of Christ there, and I got a lot of good friends out of that experience.
Nice.
And So then in my second year up there, we got engaged. So I was 23 at that point. My wife was 20. We got engaged and we got married in the January of 79, which was going into my third year of teaching. So I got a transfer. I bought a house in Kensington, the same house we live in now.
Yeah,
It's been changed a bit, but
as you do.
so I got a transfer back to Perth, and I got sent to Kwinana Senior High School, which did not thrill me at all. The freeway finished at about Canning Bridge.
Yeah.
And Kwinana had a rough name, of being a rough school.
Yeah. Oh, it was. I mean, state housing.
Yeah, mostly a lot of state housing.
The houses were 10 grand back then in Kwinana.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were. They weren't much more up in the city either. So we were married, and she was finishing off university, and I was.
Her dad accepted you?
That was really interesting. It was the football grand final. I went to the footy with him.
WACFA or the AFL?
The Waffle.
The Waffle.
The Waffle, yeah. There was no AFL then. And so the Waffle. And luckily our teams weren't playing because we were quite competitive and against each other. We barracked for different teams. And I knew that I had to ask him if we could get married between the Oval and their home in Swanbourne. Then they were heading back to Mucka. So anyway, the game finishes and we're heading out there, and I get about 200 metres from the house, and I said, Rayma's my wife's name. I said, we're wondering if we could get engaged next weekend. And he said nothing.
She was in the car with you?
No, she wasn't there.
Just you and
Just us two.
Man to man.
And then he goes, why next weekend? I said, and this is September. I said, we want to get married in January. He goes, January? No way, mate. I thought, this doesn't sound good. But we got married in January. Yeah. His thinking was, you get married, 10 months later you have kids, she's going to leave uni and waste all that money that we invested in her.
Yeah.
We didn't have kids for 7 years, so after that they kept asking us, when are you having kids?
It was the other way around.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I married my wife while she was in uni. She just finished the first year.
Yeah.
And I think the parents feared that she won't finish uni. In fact, we loved it. She finished uni and she did really well, and we had kids afterwards.
Yeah.
But very similar story. Yeah.
So anyway, going to Kwinana was, it was actually really good for me.
Yeah. Ministry-wise as well.
Yeah, it was.
So you taught high school maths?
Yeah, high school mathematics, and it just...
All from year 7 to 12?
No, we didn't have 7 in high school, and it's just 8 to 12.
Yeah.
But so I was one of the upper school teachers there, which was great. I got into upper school teaching early,
so
year 11 and 12.
That's quite good maths. You'd have to be pretty good at maths.
Yeah. And so that was really helpful, and we had a really strong maths staff there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really great. We were a team.
The maths teachers.
A lot of fun. Yeah. And there was a lot of support for each other. So it was really helpful to be in that group.
And the kids also got it.
The kids got it, yeah.
Usually
the kids were, some of them lower ability, but there was a lot of respect there. You know?
Made sure that they...
Yeah. And I learned a lot about caring for kids there.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about kids that don't have a lot going for them, and just not expecting these kids that have got fairly rough backgrounds to want to do mathematics really whatever. But no, I had a great time at Kwinana. I had 4 years there, a lot of good memories. We even took a ski trip over to Melbourne, to the snows one time. That was a fun time.
With the kids?
Yeah. A group of us.
Mate, that's phenomenal, you know. Yeah. I look back, I studied at Camberwell High School in Victoria in Melbourne. Yeah. And let me tell you, the best teacher that I ever had was our maths teacher, Terry Weimer. His name was. He was a university professor who was teaching maths. And he realized that the students that were coming out of high school into university to study maths had two major problems. One, they didn't love mathematics. They were only doing it, to get to places in engineering or, to become teachers. And number two, they weren't good at it. Yeah. He would spend the first year of university bringing them up to scratch so he can teach them the real deal. So then he thought, mate, if I want to make a difference in this world, I got to go to high school to teach people. Yeah. So what he did is he came to high school and he taught us to love maths and be good at it.
Yeah.
And in his class, I mean, his EQ was just unbelievable. He had a high IQ, in fact, one of the highest IQ in the nation, because later on I saw him on TV, and, he won the highest IQ among the teachers.
Wow.
But he chose, I mean, his EQ was even better.
Yeah.
He came in thongs and stubbies at high school, with long hair, and he taught us maths.
Yeah.
No one was left behind.
Yeah.
He would just do one formula and about 5-6 exercises, and then he would let us do another 3-4 ourselves.
Yeah.
He wouldn't move on until everybody got it.
Yeah.
And then it seemed seamless, effortless.
Yeah.
I look back, most of the kids that finished year 12 with Terry Weimer were into, I actually, after that, I went to RMIT. Listen to this. I did applied physics. It's applied science, physics and computing. 9 units of maths. Radiology. People went into aerodynamics. They went into all this crazy engineering stuff at RMIT, at Swinburne, everywhere, because he made them love maths.
Yeah.
So I think, out of those classes, most of those kids just thrived in whatever field they went into. So as you said, the teachers in mathematics, such a vital role in high school.
And I think I was a good teacher, and I had a pretty good relationship with most of the kids.
And where was your wife sent to?
Well, she was still at uni. So I guess just on that period of time also, there was some significant things happened that really changed my life forever again. I was given the opportunity to go on it was called Venture for Victory basketball trips. So there was mission basketball teams to the Philippines and Hong Kong.
They love basketball in both countries.
Well,
Philippines is crazy.
Yeah, there's a basketball court everywhere.
Yeah.
And there was a ministry organised that you would play 2 or 3 games a day for about 3 weeks and share the gospel and Bible correspondence courses and lead people to Christ. And so I was given an opportunity to do that in my first year of marriage.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, am I good enough? And we've got no money. Anyway.
How many weeks? 4 weeks?
4 weeks. So it was all of January, basically, the whole of the school holidays.
On your own? With your wife?
No, not with my wife, just with the team.
Yeah.
Australian group of guys from Australia. And so I went on that. I got picked and the money came in from different things miraculously. And I went on that, totally changed my understanding of mission, and of world events. I went again the next year. So I spent my first 2 wedding anniversaries in the Philippines out of all communication.
She forgave you?
Oh, she was quite happy, yeah. So she was at the beach with her parents, so she was fine.
Yeah.
And I knew at the end of that second trip that I'd be full-time in ministry somewhere.
Yeah.
Sometime in the future.
Yeah.
And we actually, while I was still at Kwinana, we pushed the edges in terms of going to the Philippines because they had a big school for missionaries kids over there called Faith Academy. And they wanted Australian teachers because they had more and more Australian missionaries in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And they wanted them prepared for the Australian university system.
Yep.
So I thought, we could do that for 2 years. I could teach maths, she could teach maths or phys ed. And
moved there for 2 years.
2 years, yeah. But no mission organisation wanted us. They said, if you're not going to come for life, don't come.
Wow.
We want you to go and do 3 years Bible college. And I thought, where are you going? And now I can see God knew what he was doing because there's no way in the world I could have lived in a nation like that.
Yeah.
It would have killed me. And that's what they said. They said, if you're there for 2 years, after 6 months you'll have a bad experience. You'll start counting days.
Yeah.
So we didn't go.
Yeah.
But I've realised since then that short-term mission trips, whether it's 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, they just energise me to the max.
Yeah.
I can go and do what needs to be done and have a great time. So, so that was during that Kwinana high school time where I suddenly got a whole new understanding of mission and my part in it. And I loved it. Yeah.
Wonderful. And then you went to?
So then we, I had 4 years at Kwinana.
Where was she given her first job?
She was giving her first teaching job was at a school called North Lake.
Okay. Still south?
Yeah, just at North Lake Road. It's now a senior college, but very tough school. And she probably had the worst
High school?
Yeah.
Phys ed.
Phys ed. But she was given the opportunity of a mathematics job and she took it. That was her second area.
Yeah.
And she probably had the worst year of her life because the senior master did not care for her at all, gave her the worst classes.
Mm-hmm.
Timetable was shocking and she just got slaughtered.
First year out of uni.
Yeah, really tough. So that was in my fourth year at Kwinana. I then transferred out of Kwinana to Perth Modern School, which wasn't an academic school then. It was a music scholarship school and an intensive language school. So we had 70 nationalities.
Yeah.
So once again, my understanding of the nations grew again.
Yeah. Anthropology.
Yeah.
101.
So because she was going into phys ed, the phys ed head office thought, oh, your husband's down at Kwinana, we'll put you in Kwinana in the phys ed course.
Yeah.
But I'd moved out.
Yeah.
So she went into my carpool and just taught at Kwinana. And because I had a reasonably good reputation down there, the kids said, oh, you Mr. C. And so she had a good link in, but they also had a great phys ed staff there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a great year. So that was in 1983.
Yeah.
And then we had also applied at that time to go to Canada on exchange.
Okay, as
exchange
teachers.
Teacher. Yeah, where I get a job over in Canada, they get a job here, we switch houses.
Yeah.
She couldn't apply because she hadn't been teaching long enough.
Okay.
But she would come as my spouse. And so we said, Lord, if you want that to happen, then you make the connection.
Yeah.
So we got offered a place in Toronto, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I'm not sure I want to go. And she said, but we prayed.
And this is the answer.
I said, yeah, but you're just going to have a holiday. I'm going to work, It might be like a welcome back Cotter type situation. But I think one thing that really helped me was going to Perth Mod. I had a lot of the different nationalities.
Yeah.
And so we went to Canada for the year.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just heaven.
Yeah.
I think I raised my voice once for the whole year. It was
just the kids.
And it was a very multicultural school I was in as well. And we just had so much fun.
High level of respect and honor.
Yeah. It's not always like that.
Yeah.
So
what did she do?
She did a lot of relief teaching. There was a special deal for spouses of exchange teachers that they could get a 1-year visa and do relief teaching. So she did relief teaching.
Oh, beautiful.
She once did relief teaching for me while I went on a course.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And she did maths.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, maths that time. But she had a great time. We both. It was another year of our life because our church had been through some tough times in the 2 years before that.
Mm.
And it's almost like God just gave me a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
I was a deacon.
So what church did you connect with in Toronto?
The People's Church.
Okay.
Which is Oswald Smith.
Okay.
He started the whole Faith Promise giving.
Okay.
And so
this was another level.
Oh, it was fantastic. It was a church of about 2,500.
Yeah.
And his motto was, I want to go and do missions. And when I'm out of the country, I want someone better than me preaching.
Yeah.
So we had a smorgasbord of the best people in the world preaching.
Yeah. He wasn't afraid.
Richard Wurmbrand was there and all these different guys, and it's just like heaven.
He's Romanian,
Yeah, I know he is. That's why I mentioned him. He was a famous Romanian.
Yeah.
So we had him preaching and we had a 2-week missions week and it was one of the highlights of being in Canada, able to go to the People's Church.
So you when you came back, you had so much fullness of the Word, of the Spirit, of the life.
And mostly the mission.
You were on steroids. Mission steroids.
Yeah.
Which, we do it out of here, but probably more on a relaxed level, whereas there's quite aggressive in the sense, it's driven into you every week.
Yeah. So that was great. And then came back and my wife got a job at South Fremantle High teaching phys ed, and I went back into Perth Mod. She got pregnant and we had our first baby at the end of that year, so she stopped teaching. And I was at Perth Mod, and then I loved teaching maths. Really loved it. Mm-hmm. I could have stayed there for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But I had this thing about vocational ministry, and so one of the guys on staff at our church said, "Why don't you come on here? Come and staff at our church?"
Yeah.
As the second youth pastor dealing with the different. I thought, wow. I could see myself working under him, but I probably didn't ask enough questions.
Yeah.
And I said yes, and the church, for whatever reason, voted me in.
Okay.
And
you had to go to a congregational vote.
Yeah. And it's probably based on their knowledge of me, because I was probably pretty popular with the church.
By then you had been there for 15 years or so.
A lot of credits and a lot of relational values there. So anyway, that I resigned at the end of '88, and we'd just built our building down in Collier Pines area.
Yeah.
We'd moved from the Kensington suburbia, and so we moved in there, and 3 weeks later I started full-time in ministry.
Wow.
So I went from, and the church was under financial stress, and our paychecks were bouncing, and we couldn't sell the old building, and one of the board members suggested that one of the staff should get another job, and I thought, far out. I went home and sat on the back step and just cried. I thought, I used to be an asset, now I'm a liability, you know.
Wow.
It was really tough, and I was a bit ticked off with God, because then the guy that was committed there for 10 years that I was working with, he leaves.
Oh.
And I thought, far out. And then the other two guys leave. So 2.5 years later, I'm the only pastor. I thought, God, you are hilarious. This is a really
challenging,
interesting time, you know. But no one was putting pressure on me to make anything happen, you know. So we had a receptionist and me, and that was the staff. And we had about 250 people in the church, you know.
Wow.
So that was an interesting stage of life.
You had to rebuild.
Yeah. And then the next year, John Bond joined as the senior minister.
Awesome.
And John was he's quite strong in leadership and setting up processes and things like that. And we started to run pretty hard after that.
Yeah.
So then, since then, my role changed regularly.
Yeah.
You know, so that would have been, John started at the end of '92.
And you're still with live streams now?
Still there now.
And what's your role at the moment?
My role at the moment, I'm down to 3 days a week.
Yeah.
I should say I'm paid 3 days a week. I might work 5 or 6
or 6 or 7 or
3.
8.
No, I don't do 7 or 8, but it's sort of good time. I mean, I'm 66 now. I've got a bit of freedoms. I've got a bit of space, and so my role is I do a bit of preaching.
Yeah.
The men's ministry. I do the prayer ministry. We have a group of shepherding elders that we divided our leadership 10 years ago to be a governance board and the shepherding elders, which are just care and share. So they're the decision making. They're not. I work with them. I do a bit of the pastoral stuff. My go-to ministry would be the connecting new people into the church. Yeah, you know, that sort of stuff. So I guess I'm when people say, "What do you do?" I say, "I just talk to people."
Yeah,
I help them come into the church. I meet them So as I said, we had the Bible college running for a while there, and I nearly burnt out with that because I had part-time church, part-time Bible college. Yeah, I nearly burnt out with that and knocked me around a bit, but God's good.
Wonderful.
My favourites is still the training and teaching of people overseas.
Yeah. So every time when you go down,
knocked that a bit.
Yeah.
But,
so you used to go annually, once or twice.
2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
To different places. But Nepal is the favourite. You know, we got 250 Nepalese leaders sitting in front of you. They're all
hungry.
Well, they're all Hindu converts.
Yeah.
They've all been saved by a miracle. They know the difference between darkness and light. They've planted a church. They're planting another church. Yeah. Anything I can give them to fan the flame on what's going on, I just want to give it to them. You know?
You're so humble when you go there. You just realise what these people are. When you listen to their stories.
I'm in awe.
Yeah.
I said
love
to him,
Nepal.
I said to him, you guys are in the Bible. Yeah. Acts 29. I said, look it up.
Yeah.
I said, it hadn't been written yet. You're writing it.
That's right. Oh, I love it. Yeah. I've actually climbed Manaslu there. I've climbed the mountains in the Himalayas. Yeah. And we support an orphanage there and ministers and pastors. Yeah. And until COVID, we used to go there as well and do it. In fact, I was booked to go there, in April during
last
COVID.
Year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was meant to go in March.
So we had our tickets, everything was ready.
Yeah.
COVID hit, so we couldn't go. But nevertheless, I mean, it's just a mission. It's interesting. A lot of the times when we go into mission, you ask yourself this question: am I blessing them more or are they blessing me more? Because you come back.
It's a both and.
Yeah.
It's mutual. It's like that, what Romans 1:10, I think it is, that this mutual encouragement of faith.
Yeah, which
That's
is
what
beautiful.
it's about.
So what's next for you? What's the legacy you're building in this stage of life?
It's interesting. About 25 years ago, God gave me 2 verses that sort of define who I am. And one was 1 Corinthians 14:3 that says, the man who prophesies speaks to people for their encouragement, comfort and strength. Mm-hmm. And 1 Thessalonians 2:12, which says, it talks about Paul being in like a father.
Yeah.
And it says, encouraging, strengthening and urging people to live lives worthy of God who calls them into his kingdom and glory.
Wow.
And I read those a few months apart and I thought, that's what actually I do. So I call it ECSU, E-C-S-U, encouraging, comforting, strengthening and urging. So that's basically the flavour of my ministry, whether I'm with a non-Christian.
E-C-S-U.
Yeah, encouraging, comforting, strengthening and urging. So whether I'm with a non-Christian, whether I'm with a pastor, whether I'm with a new Christian, that's the flavour of what I want to bring, or that's what I do bring into the situation.
Beautiful.
Like even I've just had 5 weeks ministry up in Christmas Island, which people laugh at because they see my photos of fishing and all this sort of stuff. But little church up there, you know, with no pastor and maybe 25 to 40 come to church on a Sunday. They might have 50 total, but they work and all that. And that was my flavour up there, just to encourage, comfort.
So we can still fly to Christmas Island?
Yeah. That's West Australia. That's an Australian thing.
I need an escape. I'll take you on that.
Yeah, so that's probably my legacy. Where I go in terms of retirement, I can't see that I would ever retire. Mm-hmm. I'm financially in a place now, we're not in debt, we could...
live on very little.
Yeah, we could not be paid. I won't tell my senior minister that.
No, we'll cut that out.
But I could, we could just be free to minister around the state.
Yeah.
I love mentoring and
your
coaching.
strength is in equipping, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. I do love evangelism as well, but it's more the equipping of the saints for the work of ministry.
God has deposited so much in you.
He has. And as I say, the older I get, the more I'm so aware of the grace, the goodness and the faithfulness of God. You know, that song, The Goodness of God. Yeah. It's my go-to song for the last 2 or 3 years. When I first heard it, I thought, far out. It just brings a tear to my eye.
All my life you have been
faithful. All my days you've been so, so good. Yeah. So the grace of God, which I never really understood in Harvey and the church then, or even in the early days of South Perth, I always saw God as someone who was looking for where I went wrong. Yeah. And it was only probably 25 years ago I got an understanding of this God is actually for me. He's on my team. He's never against me.
That's right.
You know, he just wants to fan the flame on everything good. He delights in me. And someone once said to me, there's a picture of you on his mantelpiece. And I think, wow, he just wants to give me a hug. Yeah. And so that was different to what I grew up with. Yeah. This whole idea of God is, you've done something wrong again. Yeah. You know, whereas now I just think God's on my team and he just loves me.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So if I can bring that through to people as well, and that's what I wanted to bring to the Christmas Island people, just say, yeah, God is so for you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and for fanning the flame in us, because you have, and I'm sure for our listeners and people out there the same. Thank you. Well, you've heard another amazing story. David just loves to encourage people, to strengthen people, to urge people, to strengthen you. And I'm sure through his story, he has done that. And also to flame the flame inside of you, to ignite that passion and flame it again, because you have a call of God on your life as well. Yeah, and as David said, he never wants to retire, he wants to refire. So there's never retirement in God's kingdom. There's always work to be done. There's legacy to be built. There's people to be loved and encouraged and equipped. And the legacy carries on. So don't give up in this season, whatever it is in your life. Build for the future and build God's kingdom one person at a time. Love those people, encourage those people that you come across, and become a people person just like David. Also, we'd love for you to share this content with other people so others are strengthened and encouraged and built up and urged to do the work of ministry. And if you have an opportunity, as soon as the borders open, wherever you are in the world, go into cross-cultural missions on short term as soon as possible, because that will change your life for good.
Yeah.
And you will love, and from then onwards, I know that you will go every year and you will continue to bless the world. The world needs missionaries at the moment, especially because it couldn't travel. Most people couldn't travel. And now it's an amazing opportunity to release those people to go out there. So be among the first ones who go out there and minister to those who are lost for God's glory. We'll see you again next time at Kingdom Stories from Down Under.
Thank you for joining us on Kingdom Stories from Down Under. We'd love it if you would subscribe, rate, and share these stories with your wider community. And remember, every story is worth sharing, including yours.